Have you been wondering if cruises are really going to be starting on August 1st? No predictions, but these things have to happen before they do. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website and blog Life Well Cruised, and today what I'm going to be talking about is when will cruises really sail again. So will it be August 1st? Because that is the date that we've actually heard, but there are a few things that have to happen before they do. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video up ahead. Before I get started, I did want to mention, if you do like this content, if you like cruise tips and cruise news, and of course cruise vlogs, then please consider subscribing to the channel, and please do give it a thumbs up. It actually really helps the algorithm, so I super appreciate it. So I'm going to get started with that information now. As cruise ships have extended their pause in cruising yet again, that's led many cruisers to wonder, when will we really sail? Now, of course, we know that most recently, cruise lines such as Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, Norwegian Cruise Lines have joined Carnival Cruises in extending their pause until August 1st. So that's the date that cruise lines have said that they will now resume. Now, this date seems like it could be plausible because we do know that the CDC's no sail order does expire on July 24th, so it's after that date. And of course, we are seeing some things happening in our society, including some casinos and some theme parks opening up. So we do know that things are starting to improve, so that might be possible. But there's a little something else. Before cruise ships can resume sailing, these things need to happen. So the first thing that has to happen is it has to actually be safe for cruises to sail again. Now, of course, it's going to seem very obvious, but what this means really is, just for an example, Richard Fain, the CEO of Royal Caribbean, did point out in a recent interview that the August 1st date is a projected date, and it's a hopeful date, but the first priority is passengers and crew have to be safe to be able to travel again. So the cruise lines are working with the CDC and with health authorities to make sure that cruising will be as safe as possible when they resume. Number two, the CDC actually has to lift the no-sail order. Now, the no-sail order does expire on July 24th. However, the CDC has said that they can extend it if they feel that cruising is still not safe. They've been very vocal very recently, still stating that cruise ships have some particular issues versus land vacations, and they have asked cruise lines for a comprehensive plan. They've asked for this back when the no-sail order began, and they still want this before cruises do begin. So this is something very important that has to happen before cruises will actually be able to restart. The third thing is cruise ports. And of course, cruise ships aren't like a destination that stays in one place. They have to rely on a lot of moving parts. And so one of them is that the cruise ports have to be ready to welcome tourists and to welcome cruise passengers. Now, some cruise ports, some islands, for instance, have said they are not ready yet. Grand Cayman has said that there should be no cruise ships until September 1st. However, the Bahamas has said that they are ready to welcome cruise passengers. So we'll know more as time passes, but it's really important that when the cruise lines do begin again, that they do have these partnerships with cruise ports to be able to visit. Number four, now this also has to do with cruise ports, but basically the cruise lines have to work out agreements, protocols with the cruise ports just for passengers to be able to disembark, for the crew to be able to disembark. If there is a problem and they need to have somebody leave the cruise ship, they can't risk having people stranded at sea, as they did have before the pause in cruising. And of course, we've all heard the stories of some whole cruise ships not being able to disembark, passengers not being able to dock. So cruise lines don't want this to happen, and they do need to have these protocols set up with the cruise ports, and they are working on this, but we do know this really has to happen and be put in place before cruises are ready to restart. Number five, enhanced safety and hygiene on a cruise ship. Now, as a frequent cruiser, I know the amount of sanitation, disinfection, cleaning that goes on a cruise ship. It is really wonderful. But of course, these aren't normal times. This kind of illness, this kind of contagiousness does require more vigilance in terms of cleaning and disinfection. So we don't know all of the details yet, but the cruise lines are going to have to come out with a plan, and they'll probably let cruise passengers know, but I think they have to let the CDC know as well what the full plan is. Now, if you want to know what Princess Cruises is looking at doing, they have put out a document recently about that. I'm going to link a blog post below, and I'll link a video above if you'd like to see that video, perhaps after this one, where they really go through some of the health and safety guidelines that we can kind of expect. But this is something really important that cruise lines are going to have to do, and they're going to have to work on before cruises can resume. Number 6, cruise lines may have to have medical isolation zones. And what I mean is that the CDC has asked cruise ships to deal with potential medical issues on board more independently. Now, in the past, cruise ships have had pretty small medical facilities, and they were able to deal with a few things. But if there was a bigger issue, they would actually often bring that person to the next port of call, or they might even airlift somebody off the ship, and that might still happen. But they are really asking cruise ships to deal much more independently with any issues. So we're looking at likely expanding the medical facilities on board, as well looking at some areas that can be isolated for safety on a cruise ship. Number 7, so there will have to be some temporary ship adaptations to basically adjust to this new normal that we're sort of living right now. And as we can see from theme parks that are opening up, there's social distancing that is part of that. And cruise ships are going to have to adapt their protocols, their procedures to that as well. So this can include embarkation, and that'll have to be part of the plan, as well as on the ship itself to be able to accommodate some social distancing. Now, cruise lines have said that when they do start up again, that they will be doing a sort of slow start. The ships will be sailing and they won't be full. And Royal Caribbean and other cruise lines have really spelled out a little bit of that to say how full a cruise ship needs to be even be able to make a profit and that kind of thing. So we've really gotten a little bit of information more recently. But something that I was actually I thought it was pleasant to hear about is that Royal Caribbean's Richard Fain, he did point out that the cruise ships, while they make these adaptations, they are really understanding of the fact that cruisers do want to have an amazing experience. So the shows, the dining, all of those great things. So they are thinking about making those changes, those adaptations, but still making sure that it's a great experience for cruisers. And lastly, there is something about the buffet. We do know that the buffet is likely going to be going away as we know it. But Royal Caribbean did also point out that although there was a news report that said they were doing away completely with the buffet, that is not exactly true, that those words that Richard Fain said were a little bit taken out of context, and that he just means that the cruise ship buffet, in terms of us all serving ourselves with the same utensils, all one next to the other, that really can't continue in this way right at this time. However, there will be a bit of a new concept. They will still have something that will be this casual dining. So I think not to worry. We will hear more about how it will be replaced, how crew might serve us, or if there's a different concept altogether. And personally, when I hear that Royal Caribbean is going to come up with a plan and a concept, I have a lot of confidence because I do know that they are innovators, and they were our first cruise line that we sailed with, and I know that they are just awesome. So what changes do you think are going to happen on cruise ships? And well, do you think that the August 1st date, is that realistic? Can you see it happening? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, if you did like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please consider subscribing to the channel. Now, I am on Instagram and I am on Facebook, and I'd love to connect with you there. Thanks for watching, and happy cruising.